Last week, I released a video debunking the most common January 6th conspiracy theories. If you've not seen it yet, you may want to watch that first, but I will summarize. If you've already seen it and want to skip this summary, just go to the timecode on the screen. Most of the popular conspiracy theories surrounding January 6th are told from the perspective of the right wing to provide cover for their own activities. Right-wing conspiracists tell a different story about January 6th. A false story about anti-fascist protesters working in tandem with local police officers, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, the National Guard, and every major media outlet on Earth to frame Donald Trump and his supporters. The right wing tells this story because the truth makes them look bad. The truth is that Donald Trump and his lawyers wanted to overturn the election, and Trump hoped that the chaos of the day could either be part of his justification or could delay the certification of election results. Far-right groups participated in the attack, including the Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, 3%ers, and actual neo-Nazis. Hundreds of participants have been charged and convicted of everything from trespassing to weapons charges to assault. People were injured and some died. All of this has been verified by countless media outlets, witnesses, evidence presented in hundreds of court cases, and just, they all filmed themselves doing it. The origin of any conspiracy theory either comes from purposeful disinformation or accidental misinformation, but in either case they are perpetuated by logical fallacies and mistakes in reasoning. A common denominator in believing misinformation is called motivated reasoning or motivational bias. Motivated reasoning is a response to new information in which people, whether consciously or not, allow the beliefs, political ideology, or personal values to influence how they see information. Motivated reasoning is when they accept information that is not true but fits into their pre-existing beliefs, or when people reject information that is true because it does not fit into their pre-existing beliefs. Sometimes it's difficult not to do this because of the discomfort of cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the psychological stress of holding two opposing views or facts. Dissonance can be resolved by acknowledging and resolving the dissonance, or the simpler solution, refusing to acknowledge the dissonance and engaging with a biased view of the facts. We feel less psychological stress when we do either, but the latter is quicker and easier and wrong. When we do the latter, we are using motivated reasoning. We all do this. It's all just a matter of degrees. A similar but distinct bias related to this is called confirmation bias. The main difference between confirmation bias and motivational bias is action. When we see information that suits our worldview or makes sense to us, we unconsciously accept it as fact. That is confirmation bias. When we feel cognitive dissonance and choose the option that suits our worldview and relieves the stress, that is motivated reasoning. All caught up? Great. Most conspiracy theories about this incident come from the right wing because it benefits them to create a different narrative besides the truth. However, there is one conspiracy theory about that day that exists primarily outside of the right wing. These conspiracists believe that Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene was the yet unnamed Capitol bomber. When I mentioned this in my last video, I received 3 distinct reactions from 3 groups. First group, people cringing that voters who would otherwise be on their side actually believe this. It's a combination of laughing at these fools and secondhand embarrassment due to the proximity to their politics. Second group, people who had never heard of this before. Right-wing conspiracy theories get a lot of play in conservative news media, but conspiracy theories outside of the right wing only occasionally blow up on CNN and MSNBC. Nobody needs to say, "What about this?" in the comments. I know, it happens, just not as often. For example, right-wing January 6th conspiracy theories get play on Fox News, sometimes even starting on Fox News. The Marjorie Taylor Greene conspiracy theory gets no real discussion on CNN or MSNBC. Third, people who had heard of this but mistakenly believe, or deliberately want you to believe, that everyone was only repeating this as a joke. I regret to inform you that some people genuinely believe this. This conspiracy theory is not like the Ted Cruz Zodiac killer joke. We all know that he literally was not old enough to do it. It's a meme. In contrast, the Greene bomber conspiracy theory has actual believers, poorly informed researchers, so-called body language experts, and Keith Olbermann. Liberals with close proximity to the politics of the conspiracy theorists are retroactively claiming that this was started as an elaborate satirical art project that everyone was just secretly in on. This is ahistorical. The first instance of someone claiming in public that their conspiracy theory tweet was satire was in October 2021, whereas the first instances of accusing Greene can be found months earlier and have persisted for years afterward. When you search the term Capitol bomber on what was once called Twitter, the majority of the top results will be about Greene, or replying directly to Greene, or linking to a video about Greene. This is also true of Reddit and other platforms. Someone linking people to their YouTube evidence is not memeing. I've seen all of these videos. Where's the joke? I made a popular video about Greene 2 years ago, and I have read and deleted dozens, if not hundreds, of serious and unserious comments about her being the Capitol bomber. I only bring this up at all because liberals in my comment section last week were deflecting because they don't want to see their kind going through the same logical fallacies that the right wing does, as if liberals are somehow immune or superior. Their explanation is that everyone is only doing this ironically, as conspiracy theory hipsters, in spite of 2.5 years of repetition. Sure, some people might only be joking, but that doesn't change the sincere suspicions from people who are not. Think of it this way, some people unseriously say Bush did 9/11, but some people quite seriously say Bush did 9/11. If the serious and unserious repetition of a conspiracy theory are virtually identical, it is not harmless. This was neither started as satire, nor continues as satire. Stop pretending. The right wing, her own people, have not spent much time debunking the Greene theory, maybe because doing so would require making broad statements about plausibility and motivational bias that would accidentally debunk her own conspiracy theories in the process. And they can't have that. Liberals are not going to debunk it because liberals are the people spreading it. The actual left has not spent much time debunking it because, well, we have better things to do. Everyone but me, I guess. If you want to learn more about left-wing conspiracism, Sophie from Mars has a good video on the subject. Self-reflection is important. For now, let's keep moving. So, who is this woman anyway? Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is among the most loathsome politicians in the United States. Considering the average American politician is loathsome by default, and the worst of the worst are sexual abusers and war criminals, Greene even being in the conversation after only a few years in office is a testament to how nauseating she is. 2 years ago, I made a video breaking down Greene's worst offenses, unforced errors, and crimes that this grinning, sneering weirdo has committed. Since then, she has upped the ante, knowing full well that her deep red district will never abandon her so long as she provides them with a steady diet of far-right Christo-fascist slurry from her conspiracy theory feeding trough. She's a white supremacist, she believes in QAnon and Pizzagate, she's transphobic, homophobic, Islamophobic, basically just phobic, a scared fool, completely unaware of the world around her and desperate to convince herself that she has it all figured out. Greene has been lifted up by the only society that praises anti-intellectualism like a golden idol shunned by God. Here she is screaming the demons out of her body while she tries to escape a polar bear's rectum. We should be as spiteful and dismissive of her hateful politics as we would for any historical fascist. Greene is perhaps most known for her undying adoration of the weirdest, most wrong-headed conspiracy theories. Everything from the big lie election fraud conspiracy theory to anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about space lasers causing wildfires. Whenever this particular conspiracy theory is mentioned, someone says,
excuse me, she didn't say anything overtly anti-Semitic. She just talked about the Rothschild family doing it.
My dude, the most virulent anti-Semitic conspiracy theories from the past 2 centuries accuse the Rothschilds of being the secret Jewish puppet masters of the world. For example, a common anti-Semitic conspiracy theory about the Rothschilds is that they secretly engineered the Holocaust in order to gain sympathy for the Jewish people and create the State of Israel. There are a lot of wealthy families in the world, but the far-right conspiracy theorists almost always target the Jewish families. How about that? Because to the far right, the problem with the world is never capitalism. To the far right, the problem with the world is more likely to be a marginalized group, somehow controlling the world and screwing it up for everyone else. These are the kinds of things that Marjorie Taylor Greene believes. Thus, it is both fitting and disappointing that she has found herself the subject of an accusation that lacks real evidence. The accusation that Greene is the Capitol bomber is almost certainly not true. I say almost certainly because I don't want to get all Sith Lord and deal in absolutes, but I really do wish to debunk the finer points of this accusation. Not because I wish to defend Greene, but only because I wish to defend the truth. And the truth is, well, there is no hard evidence that suggests that she is the bomber. I will be examining what can only charitably be called evidence later in the video. For now, what was the Capitol bomb scare? On the night before the Stop the Steal rally, a suspect wearing a gray hoodie, glasses, a white mask, and black and white Nike Air Max sneakers placed 2 active bombs outside the RNC and DNC headquarters. The next day, the bombs were discovered. Bomb squads determined that both devices were legitimate and needed to be disarmed. The explosive was a homemade powder, and both bombs had timers. Both bombs were disarmed and nobody was hurt. Although the bombs did not explode, their mere existence created serious consequences for the events of January 6th. According to the Capitol Police Inspector General, 3 teams were sent to disarm and investigate the bombs, which left only 1 squad to protect the United States Capitol that day. Right-wing conspiracy theorists love to blame everyone but the right wing for the events of January 6th. A common conspiracy theory usually starts and ends with,
"Why weren't there more police? Sounds suspicious, like the feds were in on it."
By making this claim, they draw away suspicion from the actual perpetrators, people with their political ideology. In reality, the reason there were fewer police officers to protect the Capitol than expected was because of the bomber. Police officers called for backup more than 30 times, but the bombs took priority because police who were not on the scene at the Capitol may not have expected the rioters to actually breach the Capitol building. Because of the outcome, it is widely speculated that this was the motive of the bomber. The bomber wanted to draw law enforcement away from the Capitol building to allow rioters access to the House and Senate, potentially delaying the election certification that day. By planting 2 bombs, 1 at each major party headquarters, it would not be immediately apparent which side was responsible. But since the bombs aided the right-wing attack on the Capitol that day, it is more likely that the bombers sided with Donald Trump, the Stop the Steal rally, and the subsequent riot. Here's another reason why the bombs may have been a diversion. The bombs had real explosive powder, that much is true, but many believe they were inoperable. The kitchen timers attached to each bomb only had a 1-hour duration, and the bombs were sitting there all night. They were not discovered until the next day. The bombs were not counting down to an explosion. The bombs were not counting down to anything. This has led many investigators to conclude that the bombs were real but were not intended to go off. If they were not intended to go off, there must have been some other reason, a diversion. With that being said, because a suspect has not been arrested, let alone convicted, the precise motive cannot be 100% determined, at least not with the evidence that has been released by the FBI so far. It's an ongoing investigation. So, why do liberal conspiracy theorists believe that the suspect in the hoodie is Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene? One piece of evidence put forth by conspiracy theorists who believe in the Greene theory is that the Capitol bomber may be a woman. There is something about the distribution of weight in the hips and certain moves that the bomber makes that imply a woman. This motion has led some to believe that the bomber is making a bra adjustment. First, we cannot confirm that the bomber is a woman based entirely on body language and hips. Some men are hippie. Second, even if we could determine that the bomber is definitely a woman, which is still a very real possibility, that does not narrow it down to Marjorie Taylor Greene, or any other woman for that matter. There were a lot of women in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. MAGA, like all right-wing movements, is hierarchical and emphasizes traditional patriarchal values. Nevertheless, many women end up being either true believers or reluctant participants in right-wing movements. It is not remarkable that the Capitol bomber may be a woman, and there is nothing about this unconfirmed possibility that singles out Greene. Next, conspiracy theorists claim that Greene owns the same sneakers as the Capitol bomber. I'm not really sure if that is true, because this picture that gets spread around is not conclusive. But for the sake of argument, let's say that they do own the same sneakers. Nike is an extremely popular brand, and the Nike Air Max is one of their most popular sneakers. They were first sold in 1987 and have been updated and sold ever since. If Greene actually does own a pair of these sneakers, all this means is that she shares a space in the pool of millions of suspects. Nothing more. Next, conspiracy theorists claim that the gait of the Capitol bomber is shockingly similar to that of Greene. Maybe this is just me, but I really don't see it. Looks like when Greene is carrying something, she swings her arm a little bit, and when the bomber is holding the bag, their arm also swings a little bit. But isn't this extremely common? Who walks with their arms stuck to their sides? Tina Belcher? Molly Shannon in that one episode of Seinfeld? So-called body language experts find this more significant, but body language experts are con artists who participate in a pseudoscience. This video that shows Greene side by side with the bomber may as well show anyone holding something in one arm side by side with the bomber. Finally, conspiracy theorists posit that Greene is the bomber because she is a far-right weirdo who has made several statements in defense of the rioters and Donald Trump. But that alone does not narrow it down to her when you look at how common that opinion is among Republicans. There just isn't anything big that connects Greene with these pipe bombs. It's a conspiracy theory that begins with pointing the finger at someone and then struggling to find justification for this after the fact. This justification has taken the form of falsified tweets to make Greene seem more guilty and falsified news about her impending arrest. Maybe I'm wrong, but there's no real evidence that's all that convincing. In addition to the absence of real evidence, which should be enough, there are also some details about the Capitol bomber that contradict the Greene theory. The other argument against the Greene theory is that even if Marjorie Taylor Greene would endorse such an action, there is no way she would do it herself. Come on guys, I doubt she has training to make 2 bombs. Even if she had help, Greene would not be the one to volunteer to do it herself. Richard Nixon did not personally break into the Watergate Hotel. People with less to lose did it for him. Donald Trump did not lead the charge into the United States Capitol. The common people did it for him. Do you really see Greene as a brave figure who would put herself on the line for the cause? Marjorie Taylor Greene is a far-right radical, but she performs her politics where she has power and protection, the House of Representatives. All these soulless politicians cosplaying as radicals talk a big game, but when the time comes, they start running because they have a lot to lose. They let the common people risk their reputations, their freedom, and even their lives. The Capitol bomber is probably someone with nothing to lose, a common trait among recent far-right terrorists in the MAGA era. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a congresswoman, and based on her alliance with Kevin McCarthy, she plans to do this for the foreseeable future. If you're rushing to make a comment about something you think I missed, I have seen every available video released by the FBI, and even some more shown in Congress, and I have read every major piece on the topic. So, does this conspiracy theory add up to anything? At most, you might be able to make the argument that Marjorie Taylor Greene cannot be completely eliminated from the list of millions of suspects, but that's not all that meaningful. Millions of people were in the area that day and could have done it. What makes her so special? Well, she's famous and she's an easy target. We can only come to the conclusion that Greene is the Capitol bomber by choosing her as the suspect first, reverse engineering evidence, searching for anything that does not disqualify her from the pool of millions of suspects, and claiming that the lack of disqualification is highly suspicious. Basically, we can only accuse Greene of being the Capitol bomber using conspiracy theory logic, and that is beneath us. The circumstantial evidence gets spread around in memes on social media, the worst kind of political discourse. It just feels real on Democrat Twitter, but more easily and correctly dismissed everywhere else. Okay, look, I don't want to debunk this simply for truth and justice reasons. I also want to debunk this because the false accusation does more to help her than harm her. When this theory gets spread around by Democrats in online spaces, it gives Greene ammunition that she is being targeted by lies, even though 99% of the time when she is criticized, it is for correct, provable reasons. Greene is almost always wrong, a remarkable feat, but this wild accusation makes her appear more reasonable than her opponents. Conspiracy theorists say things like,
Well, maybe there is evidence out there. Maybe law enforcement has that evidence.
Yeah, okay. I don't trust the police either, but your evidence cannot be speculation that evidence could exist. Your evidence needs to be evidence. I mean, we could say that about anything. We could say that the Capitol bomber was character actor Margot Martindale, and just because we don't have any real evidence, so what? Evidence could exist somewhere. You can't build a case based on lack of evidence unless you're a prosecutor from Bizarro World. Marjorie Taylor Greene is probably not the Capitol bomber. As of August 2023, we don't know who it is, but there is no good reason to keep spreading this wild accusation. It's not even hurting her, it's helping her. Let's move on.